playing with your hair, girl. That's my job.
Oh, Ruby, you have to make me especially beautiful.
Oh, honey, this is a comb, not a magic wand.
I mean it. I have to look really good tonight.
What's the big occasion?
I'm going to be a princess.
Oh, trust me, honey, you've been a princess a long time.
No, I mean a real princess with a tiara and everything.
Who died?
Nobody died.
Oh, I thought with you people, every time someone dies, y'all move up one.
I'm going to marry a prince.
A prince? You're gonna marry a prince?
That's right. I'm going to be Princess Ophelia.
Oh, he told you he was a prince?
He's a prince.
Oh, I'd be careful if I were you, child. There's a lot of frogs walking around these days claiming to be princes.
This one's no frog.
I'd run a background check. At least Google him. Every guy nowadays with a pair of tights and a sword says he's a prince.
Ruby, I'm going to marry Prince Hamlet.
Hold on. You are going to marry the Prince of Darkness?
You shouldn't say those things about him.
Oh, honey, that man could depress a laughing hyena.
He's got a lot on his mind.
He is a friggin' prince. He doesn't do jack. What the hell could he have on his mind?
It's his father.
Well, unless they went to a lot of expense to bury the wrong guy, your boyfriend's father is dead.
Oh, that's the problem.
What? You saying the old guy's not dead?
Oh no, he's dead alright.
So, what's the friggin' problem?
Hamlet thinks...
What? What does he think?
I really shouldn't say anything.
Alright, fine by me, child. I wouldn't worry too much about it if I were you. You know, if you ask me, all these royals are a couple raisins short of a Danish, if you know what I mean. That's what happens when cousins marry cousins.
Hamlet doesn't think his father died of natural causes.
Oh, hell, girl, this is Elsinore. Nobody dies of natural causes.
You have to promise not to tell a soul.
My lips are sealed.
Hamlet thinks that his stepfather...
You mean the new king?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Claudius. Hamlet thinks the new king may have had something to do with his father's, well, you know.
Oh, he thinks that King Claudius croaked his old man?
Something like that.
That'd be my guess.
You think the king could do something so gross?
Oh, like I said, honey, this is Denmark, and there's always something rotten going on somewhere. And you can quote me on that. So, tell me, did the Prince of Indecision figure this out all by his lonesome?
Not exactly.
Just how exactly?
You have to promise not to whisper a word of this to anyone.
Like I always say, child, what happens at Ruby's stays at Ruby's.
His father told him.
His father is dead.
That's why you can't tell anyone.
Why would I want to?
I know it's hard to believe.
What? No. Hard to believe that Hamlet's dead father said that Claudius bumped him off?
That's it in a nutshell.
I'd say nutshell is an excellent choice of word. You're gonna marry this guy?
When he asks me.
Hold on one cotton-picking minute here. He hasn't asked you to marry him?
Not in so many words.
Well, if he does, it'll be in so many words. You won't know the hell he's talking about. Just how well do you know this Prince Hamlet?
Well, let's just say well enough.
Oh, I see. Take it from somebody who knows, honey. Sometimes well enough ain't good enough.
I know he loves me.
Yeah, he told you that?
Well...
Not in so many words. I swear, I will never understand why women let men off the hook when it comes to saying I love you.
Because I know he does.
You are young. You don't know jack, especially about men.
I know how he feels from the way he looks at me.
Don't confuse myopia with interest.
He loves me, and I am going to marry him.
All right, fine. It's your life. And just be careful. Hamlet never seemed the marrying kind, if you know what I mean.
No, I don't know what you mean.
He's just always hanging out with those two guys, you know, Rosenberg, Gildenkrantz.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Yeah, whatever. They both seem a little light in the leotards, if you ask me.
They were all friends in college, and there's nothing wrong with Hamlet.
Oh, well, I've never seen him with any girls. No offense, honey. I just always see him as a real mama's boy to me.
Hamlet loves his mother.
Yeah, so did Oedipus.
Well, he must have been a very good son, this Oedipus.
For a while there, not a bad husband.
Hamlet's just not too happy with his mother these days.
What's his problem?
He thinks she married his uncle too soon after his father's death.
Well, he thinks the next day was too soon?
Don't make jokes, Ruby.
Who's making jokes? They used the leftovers from the funeral to cater the wedding.
Hamlet thinks there may have been something going on between Claudius and Gertrude even before.
Oh, he thinks? He thinks? Hell, girl, all of Elsinore knew that Claudius and Gertrude were steaming up the sheets.
Oh, I didn't know it.
Are you blind, child? Even at the funeral, Claudius had his hand firmly planted on her royal ass. Have you thought of suggesting to the prince to seek out some professional help? I mean, I see dead people. Give me a friggin' break here.
Ruby, what do you think I should do?
What does your father say?
Neither a borrower nor a lender be.
Why? Does he think you're going into business with Prince Hamlet?
No, that's just the way my father talks. To thine own self be true, and it follows as the night the day, yada, yada, yada. Oh, Ruby, you're a dream.
We are all such stuff as dreams are made on. And you can quote me on that.
Ruby, if Hamlet doesn't ask me to marry him, I swear I'll kill myself.
No, now, you listen to Ruby. You mustn't talk that way. Men are like ferry boats. If you miss one, another one will be along in an hour. Now, run along.
Wish me luck.
Good luck. You're gonna need it. All right. Who's next? Oh, Your Majesty.
Rosie, how are you?
Ruby.
What?
Ruby, my name is Ruby, Your Highness, not Rosie.
Are you contradicting your queen?
No, ma'am, I was merely pointing out.
One does not point out to their queen.
Yes, Your Haughtiness. So, what will it be today?
Just a touch up.
So I'm going to do something about those roots?
I am the queen. I do not have roots. I have transitions.
Whatever you say. So, how are you, Majesty? I haven't seen you in here since before your wedding. I suppose congrats are in order.
Thank you, Rita.
As well as condolences.
Condolences. What are you talking about?
Condolences on the death of your husband.
Claudius is not dead. He's alive. Very much alive. In fact, we only
I meant your first husband, Highness. The late king. The one before this one.
Oh, him. Yes, the late king. Yes, of course. He is dead. And buried.
Although still active from what I hear.
What are you talking about, Ruthie?
Oh, no, nothing. It's not important, Your Majesty. So, are things satisfactory between you and the new king?
Everything is very satisfactory, Rhonda.
I'm happy to hear it.
Things couldn't be more satisfactory.
That's good.
As a matter of fact, I can't recall when I have been so satisfied, and on such a regular basis.
Well, you go, Highness.
Are you married, Rhoda?
Ruby.
Who's Ruby?
Not important, Your Majesty. And to answer your question, I was married once.
And was he a loving man?
That's what every woman I caught him with said.
My first husband was not a loving man.
Oh, sorry to hear that, ma'am.
In fact, my late husband was a cold man. A very cold man.
Couldn't be much colder than he is right now. Huh?
Perhaps there are women who prefer a man who pays them no attention, who leaves them completely alone. A man who never... How should I put it? A man who never...
Shows them the respect and tenderness that they deserve.
Tenderness, schmenderness. I'm talking about a man who never slips them the high, hard one. Sweeps out the chimney, threads the old needle, lays a little pipe, now and then?
Yes, Your Majesty. What could I be thinking?
Indeed. Then along came Claudius.
Slow walking Claudius, slow talking Claudius. You, of course, are speaking of the new king. Your current husband. Your late husband's brother. Your son's new
Yes. Claudius is different than his brother.
Well, for one thing, he's alive.
Claudius is warm.
Oh, warm is a good thing in a man.
He's considerate.
Rare trait these days.
And loving. Very, 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 very loving.
There certainly is a new glow in the royal cheeks.
I can tell you all this because you are a woman, Rachel. You are a woman.
110%?
With someone in your profession, one can't always be sure.
Well, you can be sure your homophobicness.
When I'm with him, all I want to do is... How should I say it? All I want to do
Rest
is...
in his arms, enjoy his company, bask in his adulation.
Do the horizontal mambo, excavate the tunnel of love, clean the carpet, parallel park, ride the pony, slow.
I get the picture, your humpiness.
And my son doesn't understand that.
He's young, he'll learn.
Do you really think so?
Oh, yeah, give him time.
Perhaps you're right.
Time heals all wounds.
How quaint. Is that what they call peasant wisdom?
I suppose.
Maybe if he had someone in his life, he'd understand my need to... How should I say it?
You know, I think that lawn has already been mowed. Your horniness. Okay, I think that's it.
Are you coming to the play tonight?
What play is that, Your Majesty?
Hamlet has commissioned a play to be performed in the castle. It's called The Mousetrap. You must come.
Thank you, but plays really ain't my thing. I like something with little action, something I can get down with, something, how should I say it, something funky.
One does not turn down an invitation from her queen just because the subject doesn't rise or sink to the required level of funkiness.
Yes, your superciliousness.
I'll leave 2 tickets for you at will call.
All right, send in the next sucker.
Ruby, Ruby, Ruby!
King, king, king.
Ruby, Ruby, Ruby!
King, king, king.
You're a sight for sore eyes, Ruby.
You are looking very regal yourself.
I'm feeling very regal.
I haven't seen you since your coronation.
Has it been that long, Ruby?
At least. Tell me, is it true what they say, Majesty?
What's that, Ruby?
That it's good to be king?
It doesn't suck! Ha! I'll tell you that. The power, the wealth, the respect, but mostly the power. God, I love the power. People stand when you walk into a room. They don't sit until you sit. Oh. They do what you tell them to do. They laugh at all your jokes. Ruby, right now, back at the castle, there are people lining up just to kiss my ring.
Oh, so that's what all the bowing's about.
And the women, Ruby. Well, I can't turn around without a beautiful woman offering me, well, what beautiful women have to offer. You get the picture.
In a frame.
But of course I am faithful to the queen.
Of course.
Completely faithful.
Completely.
Totally and completely faithful.
Totally, completely
100%
faithful. What's
without
her
a...
name?
Annabella. She's a lady in waiting.
Obviously she ain't waiting no more.
Ruby, Ruby, Ruby.
King, king, king.
I may be the king, Ruby.
Oh, here it comes.
But I am also a man.
If you weren't a man, you wouldn't be the king.
Exactly.
You'd be the queen.
You won't tell anyone about the,
No.
I knew I could count on you, Ruby.
Your usual trim majesty.
Please. My stepson's putting on some cockamamie play tonight. and his mother insists that I go.
Then I will see you there.
You're going?
Let's just say the Queen extended me an invitation that I couldn't refuse.
Ugh. There's no getting out of it for either of us.
Mm-mm.
Do you have any children, Ruby?
None that I know of.
What?
It's a joke.
Oh. A joke. Nobody tells me jokes anymore.
Oh, that's too bad.
They're afraid to be funnier than the king.
Heavy lies the head that wears the crown.
Very perceptive, Ruby. Who said that?
I just did.
Oh. My stepson hates me, Ruby.
Aw, he's just a little confused.
Confused? He's a fruitcake. But he still hates me for marrying his mother.
Among other things.
What's that?
Oh, it can't be easy when a child has one parent die and the other remarries the next day.
Perhaps we did rush things a tad.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a cruel world out there for a woman all alone, without a man to protect her.
I suppose. Only thing I know is the last man that said he was going to protected me right out of my life savings.
I couldn't leave my brother's widow alone.
That's what I hear.
But he still hates me for marrying his mother. He wants to see me dead.
Really? Dead? Hamlet?
Those are the rumors. Have you heard anything? I know people tell you things.
You know, I haven't heard a thing, not a word, not a single word.
So here's my private number.
Oh.
If you do hear anything, would you give me a call? You'd have the undying gratefulness of a grateful king.
Well, if I hear anything.
Thank you, Ruby.
All right, here we go.
Oh, and Ruby,
Yes, Your Majesty.
bring toothpicks.
Excuse me?
Bring toothpicks for the play to prop your eyes open.
Oh.
I hear Hamlet directed it. It has got to be a real yawn.
Oh, for the...
Well, perhaps if you played it this way, or you could play it that way. What if you came in from the right? Or perhaps you could come in from the left. On the other hand, to be...
Well, look what the cat dragged in. Sit up straight.
Why, Ruby? Why sit up straight? Why not sit slumped forward? Or with one leg thrown over the arm?
Well, not-
Or perhaps with both?
Would you knock it off and sit up straight? You cannot go to your own play tonight looking like this.
What does it matter what I look like? Just pull the whole thing back into a ponytail.
A ponytail? Where have you been? Ponytails are so yesterday.
Yesterday. Today. Tomorrow.
You need something that says young, hip, now.
How about big, thick sideburns down to here?
I do not think so. You are a prince, not the king. Oh.
What's it matter what my hair looks like, Ruby? A rogue and peasant slave am I.
Well, that may be, but your hair says rogue and peasant slob. You are a prince, and you should look like one. And plus, there's nothing like a new do to lift the clouds of doom, raise the spirits, boost the confidence.
And what do you suggest, Ruby? What could ever lift the clouds of doom that hover o'er my troubled brow?
Bangs.
Bangs?
Bangs.
Certainly you jest.
Bangs are all the rage in England. I hear the Prince Valiant's just beating them off with a stick.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
With a stick? To have bangs or not to have
You
bangs.
are not going to start that again, are you?
Whether 'tis nobler to wear one's hair in a ponytail.
Keep it up, I'll shave you bald.
Bangs it is.
So, tell me about this play of yours.
Well, actually, it's a ploy.
A ploy.
To catch the conscience of the king.
The ploy?
No, the play.
But the ploy is the thing to catch the conscience of the king?
No, that's the play.
So, what's the play?
The mousetrap.
The mousetrap.
Yes.
What does a mousetrap have to do with this?
It's the play?
The mousetrap's the play.
Yes.
So what is the ploy?
The play.
The ploy is the play.
And the play is the mousetrap.
All right. So what you're saying is the play is a ploy, the ploy is the play, and the play is the mousetrap.
Yes, and a play within a play.
Excuse me?
The mousetrap.
What about the mousetrap?
It's a play within a play.
The mousetrap is a play within a play.
Yes.
All right, so let me see if I got this straight. The play is a ploy. The ploy is a play. The play is a play within a play, and the play within a play is what makes that play a ploy.
But you mustn't repeat that to anyone.
Don't think I could if I wanted to. So, does your girlfriend know about any of this?
What girlfriend? I don't have a girlfriend.
Ophelia?
Ophelia? Is she still telling everyone she's my girlfriend?
She thinks you're gonna pop the question.
What question?
Well, it ain't to be or not to be, I can tell you that.
She thinks I'm gonna ask her to marry me?
That is what she thinks.
Where'd she get the idea that I wanted to marry her?
Apparently from you.
I've got enough on my plate. My father's dead, my uncle is the king, and my mother is...
Let's not go there, okay?
The point is, I don't need some girl mooning after me all the time. She should get her to a nunnery.
What that girl's looking for, she ain't gonna find a no nunnery.
She's not gonna find it with me either.
Just a bit of advice, if you don't mind me saying so. Let the child down easy. She's young. She's impressionable. Highly strung.
Tell me about it. I've played lutes that weren't strung as tight.
Just be careful.
It ain't easy being me, Ruby.
Right. Prince of the realm. Killer job. Who would want it?
Speaking of killer jobs, I may have to kill my uncle.
You may have to kill your uncle.
You must promise not to breathe a word of this to another soul.
Oh, my lips are sealed.
You promise?
If I'm lying, I'm dying.
It's not a sure thing yet.
Killing your uncle.
I have to be certain he actually murdered my father.
Oh, so you really think that your uncle murdered your father?
I'm not 100% positive,
Of course not.
but I have it from a very reliable source.
Oh, reliable source? Just who might this reliable source be?
My father.
Your father. Right. Oh, King Cuckold. Well, unless I'm reading the wrong paper, your daddy's dead.
To be precise, it was my father's ghost who told me.
Oh, your father's ghost is talking to you.
That's right.
You sure it's not just some of your college buddies punking you?
That is in the realm of possibility.
So, you're saying that there's a chance that you might not kill your uncle.
Right now it's about 50-50.
50-50.
I wouldn't want to rush into it.
Well, of course not. You're Hamlet.
I mean, what if he didn't murder my father?
Right? What if?
Then I'd be killing him for nothing.
Oh, and you wouldn't want to kill your uncle based on bad intelligence.
But what if he did murder my father?
Well, that's just a whole other kettle of ifs.
And then there's the matter of justice.
Right. Justice. Can't forget justice.
Ruby, do I have a right to take his life just because he took my father's life?
You know I just do hair. Revenge killing ain't part of the job description.
On the other hand,
Oh, God, here we go.
I mean, I am obligated to revenge my father's death if he was indeed murdered.
But conscience does make cowards of us all.
Wow. I never thought of that. Conscience does make cowards of us all. Yes, I can blame the whole thing on my conscience. That way I wouldn't have to do anything.
It's a thought.
I ask you, Ruby, does any man have a right to take another man's life under any circumstances?
Oh,
But, I mean, he is the king, and if I don't render justice, who will? But if that king attained his crown by raising his sword against his own king...
Your Highness, Ruby here.
But raising your sword against your own king is the highest crime one can commit.
You know that matter with your stepson? Yeah, you'd asked me to call you if I'd heard anything.
Can two wrongs ever make a right?
You know, if I were you, I wouldn't worry about a thing.
Does a right and a wrong make a right?
You have about just as much chance of being whacked by your stepson as I do of becoming the queen of friggin' England.
Can two rights make a wrong?
Oh, yeah, no problem, King.
To be or not to be? That is the question.
What's that? Oh yeah, wouldn't miss it.
Whether 'tis nobler to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to rise against a sea of bubbles, a sea of puddles, a sea of bubbles, a sea of cuddles.
Save me a seat. All right, who's next?
Ah! Ah! Looks like I'm next.
King Hamlet.
You're not surprised to see me, Ruby?
All around here, nothing surprises me.
The sight of a dead man walking has a tendency to frighten most people.
I'm not most people.
No, you're not, Ruby. You're the last honest person in Denmark.
Oh, well, that's really not saying much when you get right down to it.
Yeah. Boom! What am I gonna do, Ruby?
Well, we could trim the front, layer the back a little bit, disguise the bald spot.
Huh? No, I'm talking about my family. Here, have it.
All right.
My brother murdered me.
Ugh.
My wife took him into her bed before my body was even cold. My son won't avenge my death!
What family doesn't have its problems?
Do you think Gertrude and Claudius had something going on before he poured the poison in my ear?
I wouldn't know, Your Majesty.
And if you did, you wouldn't tell me, would you?
What happens to rubies?
Stays at Ruby's.
Yep.
I know. Oh, I could have used ministers like you, Ruby. People who knew how to keep their mouths shut. Unlike my son. Was he the Hecuba?
Hamlet is young, Your Highness.
He's 32 years old.
Oh.
When I was 32, I conquered a half dozen neighboring tribes, imprisoned 2,000 of their warriors, killed God knows how many others, and impregnated 500 of their women. Boom, boom,
You
boom.
were a doer, Highness.
Oh. If I thought my father's brother had killed my father and married my mother, I'd have roasted the bastard on a spit. I'd have fed his entrails to the pigs. I'd have...
Each generation has its own way of dealing with conflict.
Yeah, I'd have put his head on a pike.
Yeah, you would.
I'd have severed his limbs.
Want me to do something about that bald spot that you got?
Think you can? Give it a shot.
Yeah.
So how are things with you, Ruby?
Can't complain.
You still seeing that rope maker?
Nah. Couldn't get him to tie the knot.
You see, that's the problem with young people these days. No sense of commitment. Take my son. To be or not to be? What's the problem? To stab this son of a bitch, huh? Did I ever tell you about the time I slew 3 men with one thrust of my sword?
Yes, Majesty.
Ah.
Anytime.
It was at the Battle of... God, death is hell on the memory, Ruby.
Oh.
Well, anyway, there they were, all lined up in a nice, neat row. I just hit one cur in the throat with my shield, turned, and ran my sword through all 3 of them. Like a shish kebab. There we go. Oh, happy times. Oh.